What is up, you guys? We are here for our weekly anchor message. We will be getting our spiritual assignments and lessons and themes for the week. I was out of commission for the weekend. I was pretty much just spent. There was nothing left, no time, no energy. We've had work running late every night. We've rolled out this new computer system that no one's really been trained on. The managers don't know either what's going on. And so they can't train us on it. We're all just kind of figuring it out at the same time together. On top of it, it's like super busy. And so it's a super intricate, difficult interface to read, and then like so many different buttons, and it's not very intuitive to navigate, and it's just we're all like about to lose our minds. And then there's been like several new people there that we've all been training, so it's like we're just frazzled. And it just was a crazy weekend and all of that. And on top of it, after work, there were a couple of pivotal people having birthdays and going away parties over the weekend. And so this is the first night that I've just been able to come home after work and make the video as usual. So I was excited to get back to our routine. I know I haven't been as present because I've been busy with the holidays as well. So I've usually been able to keep up with the posts on Instagram. So if you guys like reading, I always post a picture of our spread there on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the written blog that goes with the reading. And so that's usually what happens first, and then later we come and do the video afterwards. So if you follow me on Instagram, it won't matter if I don't make a video, because you can always go read the post for the day. And that is Liz_Taylor_magic. Now, it won't exactly not matter, because we get into a lot more detail, and a lot more channeling comes through once we start unpacking the message here. But it will give you something if you're like, oh, I wanted some encouragement for the day, and I didn't get my little fix. So that's that. So we are in this window of time. So between the first day of Rosh Hashana and the final moments of Yom Kippur, this is a window of time called the 10 days of repentance. And so during these days, our soul is ascended to the upper realms. It's going through its yearly review. It's being judged. It's being, analyzed, refreshed, rewired, all the things. And so our soul is sort of like in a spiritually, medically induced coma, up asleep, resting in the upper realms, going through this process. The light of our soul that's left us right now is leaving us sort of like a little bit vulnerable. We're a little bit more sensitive. We're a little bit more on edge. We're a little bit more easily thrown off and discombobulated. And so part of this process each day sends us through these corresponding challenges or lessons that have to do with the corresponding dimensions of the soul. And so another factoid about this period of 10 days is that the 7 days in between, we have a full week. It's like Monday through Sunday. So each day you basically navigate, say how you navigate Monday is going to determine how your Mondays for this next year will be every Monday. And so if you can overcome challenges and darkness and maybe rise above your temper, or even just do a little bit better, or make a little bit of progress, it actually goes back retroactively and corrects and kind of drops the charges on the things that happened on Mondays in the previous year, which sweetens your verdict for the Mondays to come. Tuesdays, you can navigate Tuesdays really, the Tuesday we've just been through, then that helps set you up for the Tuesdays to come. You might be thinking I've been short-circuiting all week. I'm going to have a terrible, terrible year. Why didn't I know this sooner? I know I haven't been able to physically be on here to give you these messages, but the Kabbalah Center hasn't exactly either. And so it's like being aware of it when you can be aware. It's great. Like, you haven't ruined your life. Don't worry. The good news is that after Yom Kippur, the process starts again for the holiday of Sukkot, which is the Feast of Tabernacles, or the Festival of Booths. And so we go through that sort of cycle again, and anything that we didn't get to purify or correct for or kind of like repair on those days, we get another chance to sort of re-solidify the work that we've already done. It's like going back and like, it's like deep cleaning the house, you know, and you move things around, you dust, and you mop. And then after like the dust settles, it's like you've got a little bit of stuff on the floor again. You got to do that last sweep, right? So Sukkot is going to give you a second chance to go through the days that you weren't aware, right? Or even I was aware and I still messed up sometimes. In fact, there were moments where I'm like, I'm having conversations with people at work and I'm like, is this in the gray area? Is this going to be like count as evil tongue, or is this a productive conversation to be having? Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, am I ruining this for myself? So yes, so it's we're all in this together for sure. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the cards, and then I'm going to let you listen to the audio, and then we'll come back and like talk about them in more depth. So we've got the Village showing up again. This has been very like repetitive over the last few weeks. We've had the Village showing up quite a bit. In fact, we may have had it showing up like every week for the last 3 weeks consecutively. I would have to go back and look at the posts to know for sure. I'm a little bit brain dead at this point. So we've got the Village, followed by the Threshold, which you can see the connection, the visual connection of these, right? And how they're related. Like, look, this is almost like the hero leaving the village and standing on the precipice of new light, new passion, new fire, new illumination. And they have their feet on the last stretch of familiar ground, right? And see that texture there for that ground as it matches the village ground, right? And that the shadow, it's like once we are, you know, it's like when we're standing in the village looking out, the mountain is this dark looming, you know, challenge before us. But when we're on the precipice of, you know, leaving the old behind, and we see the light and the warmth and the newness of what lies ahead, there's almost like we have our back to that void where we know if we stay there, we'll be swallowed up. We won't have this new revelation revealed. It's like it will have been snuffed out, that new light, that new excitement for a new chapter, right? So I like that imagery a lot. And then we have the Lover. And the Lovers have been with us too, because the Lovers are all about the why and the road. And it's almost like it's a play on words, right? Because it's like the road makes a why, but really it's like getting in touch with the big why. Why do you turn a certain direction versus another on your path? Why do you choose this over that? Is it heart-centered that you're making these decisions? Are you basing this on the soul's calling, or are you doing what society suspects of you? Are you doing what fear is pushing you to do? Are you following a path that is driven by darkness or separation or prejudice or fear that if you don't do it, then you won't have the money or the finances to support yourself, but it means turning your back on something that you love. So you do something that like is a guarantee, and you think it's a guarantee, you think it's secure, but it kills you slowly on the inside, right? So it's like we're on the precipice of this new chapter, and now it's like we're being asked, okay, once we set out on the Village, what path are you choosing? Every step is going to take you in a direction, and it's going to lead you somewhere. And you want to make sure that what's leading and guiding your steps is coming from a place of your deepest truth, your deepest authenticity, your deepest integrity, right? And so I have to say that yesterday I had just enough time. On Sunday morning, my personal ritual is to give myself an extensive weekly reading every week. And that gives me direction for where my soul is being led. It gives me an idea of what kind of, vibe my week is going to look like, maybe themes or events that might come up through the week. And this particular reading for me this week was so on the nose. There were so many, so I'll use several different decks, oracle decks and tarot cards. And it was like everything was so consistent and repetitive from every different deck that I'm just like, wow, I was blown away. I was brought to tears. Because sometimes I would be literally having the revelation and the theme, the message would be coming through, and I'd be kind of talking out loud to myself, and I would pull a card out and the card would be finishing the sentence. It would be literally finishing that revelation of how it all fit together. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And so we kind of had that again in our anchor message for the week, and you'll see what I mean. So underneath the village, we have the Fool starting off on their new path, heading out on an adventure where they don't know what lies ahead. And there are friends and foes waiting for them on the path. And sometimes they don't look like who they really are on the surface, right? We don't notice the looming hidden dangers. And so that's part of what gives us the courage to go out and to take risks and go into the uncertainty and into the unknown. As we get older, we know what to fear. We know we know what to anticipate. We're like, oh, there's so many risks. Like I've had so many experiences. I've had so many negative things that make me fearful and hold me back. And when we're young, we haven't had those experiences. We don't know what threats lie ahead. And so in our naivete, we're able to make greater risks. There's one of the new people at work. This guy, he moved to Nashville from LA. And I was like, how did you end up moving here? Like, had you ever been here before? Like, did you kind of hear about the city? And it was like a totally random choice. He was like, nah, I just wanted to change. And I thought, all right. So I booked myself a flight and gave myself 3 days to find a lease. And then I went back and I got my stuff and I drove and moved across country. And I'm like, that's incredible. How are you? He grew up in LA. He's like a native, Los Angeles, native. And so I'm like, I get clingy to places and people and moments in time. And you just totally took a leap into the unknown without hesitation, without overthinking it at all. Just followed your raw instinct and it kind of worked out. And I was like, so what do you like to do? What do you do to, for fun? And he's like, I don't do much. I just I needed a friend group and I don't go out, I don't drink. So I just found a church. I didn't like that church that much. So I went and found another church. I like that one. I was like, oh, okay. Have you always, had faith? Did you grow up in church? And he was like, no, never. I just did it and I don't really like it. I'm like, wow. As it turns out, he looks older than he is. He's only 21. And so that made perfect sense to me then. I'm like, oh, okay. Having thought, oh, you're 25, 27. That's a big leap to just go willy-nilly balls to the wall that make that kind of change without even really thinking about it, pure instinct, and then just land on your 2 feet, right? Going into the unknown. But then when you think about somebody who's 21, it's like, oh, they don't know about all the downsides and the threats and the possibilities. They don't have, baggage built up around that kind of stuff yet for the most part. They don't even have the sense or the developed prefrontal cortex to anticipate, it may not work out, right? So I just thought that was so interesting. But yeah, that vibe, it's like, we've got to leave the village and go out on this new adventure. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let you guys listen to the audio at the end because now I'm on a roll. So it's like this leaving the village, basically every year we have a new chance to rewrite a new destiny for the next year to come. If we can really search ourselves and make the changes, then our life starts to change. But so many times it's like we want to make change and we kind of dance around it, but maybe we sense something about ourselves, but it's too scary or too uncomfortable to be able to face that hard truth. And so change doesn't happen. We don't look at it, we don't deal with it because it's too ugly, it's too messy, it's too scary. And so then we end up just repeating these patterns and sort of staying in the village and never leaving, never putting ourselves out there, never taking the risk, never taking that leap, right? Because we want the known, we want the comfortable, we want our village, like we want to know what to expect. We want our hominess, but we can't reach our next level. We can't find our personal legend, as the writer refers to it in the book, the beloved book, The Alchemist. If we don't leave the village, if in the village, leaving the village is like taking a risk that your soul is calling you to take, not knowing how it's going to go, not knowing what the end result is, but you're being led and you have to take a risk anyway. I like to use the people on the flotilla right now as they're living examples of what we talk about certainty. This is a perfect example to use. They have so much certainty that no matter the attacks that they suffer, the threats that are coming at them, the terrifying, possibilities, they're still so united and determined to go and just try to get even what food and aid they have to these people. They know they're not going to save the day with what they have, but they know that they will at least provide the initial events and things that make way for change, but it will also provide it's also given so much hope to the Palestinian people who have thought they've been forsaken, and now they see that it's not true at all, that the whole world is behind them. It's not about the politics or this group against that group. It's about people. There are men and women and children who are just people like you and I over there, and this is how our hearts are all collected and heartbroken for them, but hoping for them and rooting for them and wanting them to survive, And so the flotilla, the people on it, there's no guarantees. They don't know what's going to happen to them. But they are certain about one thing, that no matter how many times good gets knocked down, good will rise up and will prevail, and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And the goodness, the light, is contagious, and it spreads, and it eradicates darkness. And so they are certain that they are doing the right thing. They are certain that goodness is on their side, and they are certain that history is on their side, that human dignity and goodness is on their side. And so they know what they must do. They don't know how it's going to go. They don't know what's going to happen, but they have to keep stepping out in faith, regardless of the results. And that is what I mean when I talk about certainty. It doesn't mean you have a guarantee. It doesn't mean you have clear answers, but you have a clear calling in a direction that is pulling at you, and you don't know why and you don't know how, but you gotta. That is certainty. And that no matter come what may, you gotta keep going. You gotta keep going. That's how I feel about this channel, right? Regardless of whether or not that I ever build a huge platform or a huge audience, even with my new platform that I'm building, I don't know if I'm going to do any better in the algorithm there. I have stumbled upon other content creators who are in the similar category, who are even tarot readers, who are also theology people. And so it's like, okay, I know that there are people out there that I can connect with. So I'm going to keep doing this. And you know what happened the other day? So such a blessing. I was just feeling the weight of it all. I was feeling a little bit discouraged that day. I was feeling exhausted. I was feeling like nothing I do matters. No one sees what I'm making. And sometimes I feel like the people who are seeing it are so confused, and they're getting caught up on the wrong things. And I'm like, who am I even talking to? And half the time, like so many times, the comments are like some random man just commenting on my looks. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, is anything making a difference for anyone? And I usually don't check my messages on Facebook very often because sometimes people just get weird on Facebook. But I looked at my messages, and there were several people who had reached out to let me know that they were going through really hard times, and it was the content that I was posting that was keeping them going, that was giving them perspective and giving them hope and giving them encouragement, helping them find their way through. And so that was such a blessing for me to hear, because it doesn't matter if it's a big audience or a big crowd. If I have impacted one person, two people in a way that gives them hope and that it's a life-changing thing for them, then I have done my work. Then I feel like I have fulfilled my purpose. Not that it's finished, but that I'm on the right track, and that what I'm doing is helping, right? But again, I don't have any feedback. I don't have any guarantees. So it's like sometimes in life we have to go out and take a leap of faith in the dark and just trust that something is working. Something is being woven in the cosmos that we can't see, but we have to trust that angels are working for us, and that that God is working by our side, and we are co-creating with God, and that we have free will though. And so whilst God is continuously sharing and giving us resources and guidance and support, it's up to us to keep that connection open and not shut out that guidance and that support and that strength when we have those tired days where we want to feel despairing, right? We have to own that, and we have to own our ability to sort of bootstrap up and keep going, kind of thing. So we have the threshold, right? So it's like we are in this liminal space during the 10 days of repentance. We're no longer the person that we were. We don't have to be. We can have a new destiny moving forward. So it's like we're on the threshold of new chapters and change and expansive new vistas and horizons, but we just haven't quite stepped over that chasm yet. We've got the feminine king of pentacles, which in the Mystical Moments Tarot, there's the traditional queen, that's the female, that represents the self-mastery of the feminine aspects of themes surrounding pentacles, material success. So like I would say that in a feminine sense, the pentacles would represent your ability to take actions that care for yourself and creating a comfortable, nurturing, beautiful environment. You are like, think of the Earth Mother, the nurturing, sort of like sprightly, earthy, elemental, big sis type, or that mother type that just makes everybody feel taken care of, nurtured, fed. They know how to like give you the medicine that you need. You know what I mean? Like they know how to care for and nurture, and they have like a motherly energy, not necessarily mothering like overbearing, but like that giving, that comforting, that understanding, that nurturing side. I think that when I think of the feminine aspect of the pentacles, I think of someone who can also build a solid and secure home environment for themselves, right? You are taking good care of yourself. You're giving yourself a peaceful home. You're nurturing yourself with healthy foods. You're paying your bills. You're, mindful about keeping the affairs of your household going. The King of Pentacles is about having that sovereignty and that discipline and that leadership to take action that becomes fruitful. Industriousness and the ability to make good financial decisions and be good with money management and be good at like physically providing and doing those, like a King of Pentacles would also be that person around, like the man that knows how to fix everything around the house, like the handyman. And not that the women can't do that either. I'm kind of a handy one. I know a woman I'm friends with at work. All her tools have names. She built a chicken coop that had multiple levels. It was like a high-rise chicken coop in like an afternoon. Like, she's amazing. So this isn't really gender, but it's like we're kind of like separating them into like energies, but it's not about shoving people into a gender classification. And I think that was one of the main reasons why they had not only the traditional king that's male, the traditional queen that's female, but they have a feminine king in this deck. And so for me, the feminine king represents both the mastered feminine elements of the suit and the mastered masculine elements of the suit. So back to the masculine, it would be like, the dad that makes sure your oil is changed and like, have you changed your windshield wipers? They get out, open the garage door for you, like that protective care, like that secure presence around you, feeling like you're protected, provided for, secure, solid, comforted, right? But someone who's also good at, like, they're financially healthy, right? So the combination of these two characters, it brings to mind the woman of valor from Proverbs. And so Proverbs, every Shabbat, the first thing that starts Shabbat is the recitation of the Woman of Valor poem that talks about it praises the ideal woman, a woman of valor who has both the art of the domestic arts down, who runs her household with knowledge and care and care to detail, but then also is like very industrious and business forward. Like, she goes and acquires a field and buys it and plants a vineyard. She sells fine clothing to the merchants. It talks about her being a productive in the sense of industriousness as well. So it's not just, oh, you're a woman of the house and that's all you do. In the ancient times, in Judaism and ancient Christianity, women were career ladies and homemakers. Like, they were vendors. They made wines. Like, they had jobs that they did. They were 2-income households. They had like triple taxation. So nobody was just like, nobody was having that stay-at-home life, right? So the Woman of Valor is this poem that's recited every Shabbat, and it was something that, like, it didn't offend me to read this poem. I can look beyond where people might have sensitivities of not wanting to get stuck in traditional gender roles, right? But I appreciate that, the Woman of Valor, and I think that even like, say for instance, a man could take the characteristics of that character as well and adopt those. But I am inspired to be a woman of valor, and it says she does not eat the bread of idleness, and that inspires me on days where I want to be lazy and I don't want to take care of business and I want to be complacent and just sort of phone it in. And this is not, like, you don't get here by phoning it in. We cannot cross the threshold from our old space into a new space, into a new identity, if we are phoning it in. We have to own our responsibility to take the steps, to take the action, to embrace change with all of our hearts, right? And just like Lot's wife escaping from Sodom and Gomorrah, don't look back, because if you look back, you'll be turned to stone. And it's so true. I mean, think about it. When you can't let go and you can't move forward, you can't leave the village because you're too attached. You can't move forward in your life. You become stuck. You become frozen. When people have like regrets and grudges, and they're stuck on that whatever happened in the past, it's like it freezes them in the present and they can't move forward, and they're frozen in this salty bitterness. And so what happened was, when Lot and his wife and their family were escaping into the mountains, when Sodom and Gomorrah were being destroyed, the angels told them, like, keep going and keep running into the mountains and don't look back whatever you do. And so Lot and the daughters were running and they weren't looking back, but the wife was from Sodom and Gomorrah. She was Gomorrah, I think. And so she was having to leave behind everything that she loved, and she looked back, and that she turned into a pillar of salt, right? And it's symbolic. It's metaphorical for all of those things that we're talking about. Like when you look back and regret, you get stuck in that. When you get too comfortable in the village, in the stage of your life that you're in, it's like you can't break out of a rut sometimes and move forward. I mean, even down to like all of, like, imagine being a refugee, right? Having to make the choice between leaving your home, and taking that risk, going into the unknown, or staying behind and fighting it out. It's so relevant to so many different degrees and scales, and I mean, there's refugees all over the world. And I think, now that everything's just culminating, and I've had this holy vision of sorrow, my heart's just broken open more so than ever for people. And I can see them with more urgency than ever. But I think that we've just got so used to seeing stories about refugees coming from everywhere, going to everywhere. And it seems like we just saw them so often that it just became normalized. Like, oh, yes, that's terrible. But like, we should have been so outraged that we wouldn't stand for it, or we should have been so galvanized for people who are in great need that we couldn't go through our week without at least taking a portion of our check and making sure that we at least gave something to someone to help them somewhere. And that didn't used to be me. And I didn't think about it as much. Like, I thought, oh, I need to tithe. But it didn't weigh on me like it has the last few months. Thinking that when I realized that I got my check and I didn't pay my tithe, I think somebody somewhere is waiting on this money. And it might mean their next meal or anything. Like it might have a deep effect on someone. And so I was humbled so greatly by realizing that, like, when Jesus talks about giving with humility, it doesn't mean being proud of yourself because you did something nice. It means realizing that it's barely a drop in the bucket. And realizing that you wish you could do so much more. And then that is what prompts us to want to be greater vessels of sharing, because it's not about receiving for the self alone anymore, so that you can go on a trip or buy something nice or go out to dinner, go out with your friends or blow off some steam. You think, my God, I wish I could afford more so that I could help in a bigger way. And then when that shifts, that you become a force to be reckoned with at that point. You become someone who God considers a valuable asset in that way, because God needs to give to you because you're going to share. I can't say enough wonderful things about Trisha Yearwood and Garth Brooks. I have firsthand experience with them. I worked on her show, her cooking show, Trisha's Southern Kitchen, several seasons. And we film in one of their houses. Like, it's like an extra house that they use to do, they film a lot, and it's like in home settings. And so they have a house that's mostly just for filming. And so I've spent weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks in that house. And sometimes Garth is in and out, and he's such a down-to-earth person. But getting to know them over the course of the years filming that show, I witnessed them doing acts of generosity and kindness and having like just a heart of love and inclusiveness and justice and fairness and generosity towards everyone. I have seen them do the most generous things. They are so giving, and they have been so blessed. I went to France and in Paris, and they were like, "Where are you from?" Like, they were kind of annoyed, like, American. And I told them, I was like, "Well, I'm from Nashville." And they're like, oui, Jacques Daniels, Garth Brooks, big shit, Garth Brooks is shit. Like, he's the man. Like, everyone loves him. Trisha Yearwood, no one does not like Trisha Yearwood. And during COVID, when we went into quarantine, into lockdown, we weren't able to film, and in freelancing, you don't have like a steady check. You don't have any real like stability. You're just like you're feast or famine all the time. So we don't have like a lot of savings when you're in that industry, unless you're well established and you've gotten lucky and got to work consistently and build that up. But Trisha Yearwood wrote every single crew member that was attached to that show. She probably did this for like all of her extended teams in entertainment, and God knows how many people that is. But she wrote all of us a check for $2,000 to help us with our needs. And a few weeks later, when like lockdown still hadn't, it was like not a few weeks later, it was a couple of months later, when everything was still kind of shut down, she sent out another check for $1,000 to all of us. Like, they are such generous people. So it's like we are standing at this threshold, and what is really going to help us get over the hump to our next level is realizing the true meaning of stepping into our potential, because of the capacity that we will have to make a positive difference, to make a positive change in the world for people who need it. Look at Dolly Parton. She's practically a saint, right? And she's got the tattoos she keeps hidden, right? There's all this lure, like, right, she got the tattoos. She's kind of like, mountain woman. She's not perfect. She's outlaw country, from the OG times, and yet no one could fault Dolly Parton. She's the most giving, sweetest human being with the most reasonable moral compass on earth. In fact, I was thinking today, I was like, look, if nobody can agree on what would Jesus do, then we can all agree, agnostic, atheists, like, what is it called when it's secular? What would Dolly Parton do? Same vibe. You will get the same answers, regardless of what the bracelet says. What would Jesus do? What would Dolly Parton do? Same answer to that question, right? So we're on this threshold. It is time for us to step into our sovereignty of taking control and taking leadership, personal leadership over our lives, and owning that responsibility with a sense of sacredness, of kavod, right? That is a Hebrew word that is talking about holiness, about sacredness, about something that has weight and like you almost can't translate it. It's like kavod, like thinking about the weightiness of something, the importance, the value, But yes, something sacred, something that is meaningful, important, right? Sacred. And then, okay, so we're setting ourselves up to leave the village. We're on the threshold of leaving the boundaries of the village. So after you walk out of the village, where are you going? You got to go to the path. You got to find the road, right? That's going to take you out of town. And usually in the hero's journey, you're going into a dark, mischievous forest, right? You don't know what you're walking into. And lo and behold, we've got the lovers here, the lover, and then the lovers came up with the lover card. I mean, double emphasis. That's what I mean. Like, my reading this week was the same. It was just like double emphasis. Like, like every card was like reinforced. So the lovers is not necessarily about finding a lover or meeting your soulmate, but it is about that internal divine masculine aspect within us and our internal feminine aspect within us coming into that sacred alchemical marriage where we can take our soul's promptings and take action on it and live a heart-centered, soul-led life. The masculine is our outer expression of our personality, whereas the feminine is our intrinsic world. It's our feelings, our intuition, our insight. It's our connection to that voice of the Holy Spirit that leads us in this direction or that. It's that whisper that grabs your attention and brings peace to your heart when all the noise of the outside world is saying, look this way, look that, look over here, look over there. You can turn inward with your divine feminine and connect to the Holy Spirit through the portal, the bridge of your heart. The masculine aspect of us is the way that we take that insight and those prompts and we take action on it. So the Lover's card is about what is leading your decisions. What path are you choosing in life? Are you making your choices from the heart and soul, or are you letting the world and expectations and societal norms or whatever dictate that for you, right? If your heart is leading you to live in a societal norm, it's okay. But I mean, it doesn't, but like a lot of people feel like they have to shove themselves into a box and kill their own spirit so that they can be palatable and fit in and be normal and just get along and blend in with everyone. And that is most people. I'm lucky because I am with all kinds of, I've always been surrounded by ragtag teams of misfits. I'm like always with the fringe people, with the creative people, with the oddballs and, you know, the offbeat hijinks going on. So I've never felt the pressure as much to put on those traditional hats, you know, or costumes or roles. I've always been more comfortable doing something out of the ordinary. But even I struggle sometimes with thinking, I compare myself. Oh, I don't have this and that like those people do. So I don't look like I have a lot to offer, you know, in that way, in that traditional sense, right? But I do have amazing things to offer. Like, I'm a hidden treasure that like the people in those cookie cutter lives can't see or appreciate, right? And so for me to try to blend in with the ticky-tacky, you know, did you guys ever watch Weeds? The show, and in the opening credits, it shows one of those like big box neighborhoods where all the houses look the same and everybody fits in and everybody has like yoga body and everybody has the same hair and everybody, you know, drinks a coffee drink and they all go to the soccer game and they all fit in. And these little boxes made of ticky-tacky, and it was just basically cutesifying this mold that we all feel so like stressed and pressured to fit into. And yeah, I like sometimes I even think, but if I tried to have molded myself into that world, I would look old and sad My spark would be gone. I would have no joy. I would just be bored and stale and plateaued and in despair because I would be in the wrong place for me. It wouldn't be who I truly am. And the reason I know I'd be like that is because every time in my life where I get stuck somewhere that I'm not supposed to be, and I'm trying to put on a version of myself that's not true to me, I start getting old and sad and depressed and despairing. And as soon as I break out of that pattern and turn myself in a new direction, it's like all of a sudden I'm back. I've got a glow up. I look young again. I look fresh. I'm happy, right? I lose a bunch of weight. So we are in this moment, the 10 days of repentance. Wednesday night, sundown, starts the fast of Yom Kippur. If you didn't participate in Rosh Hashana and you want to draw down this energy and at least be a part of some of that exposure to that, then I would say fast on Yom Kippur. And you could even live stream the whole thing through the Kabbalah Center, Kabbalah.com. But if you just did the fast and you spent that day in contemplation, that would be a big start. That would be a good start. That's how I started participating in these holidays several years ago. I started the first year. It was just like, okay, I know about the fast. I'm going to do the fast. I even had to work. I was working on a show, so I had to go to work, but I fasted and I scanned Zohar and I participated even that way, and that year was miraculous and life-changing for me as well. It was disruptive. There were big changes, but it set me free from the trajectory that I was on. And so on the feast of Yom Kippur, we restrict ourselves from the comforts of the body. So we restrict the body consciousness, and we want to empty the self so that we can receive the soul that is being back downloaded. Somebody at work was like, so clear the cache. We're clearing our cache for our soul to be downloaded back into our body. We do not drink water. We do not eat anything. We do not clean ourselves or brush our teeth or wash our hands or do anything like that cleanses our flesh. We do not wear oils or lotions. So we don't, perfume ourselves or moisturize. We don't do any of those comforting things. We don't put on makeup. You don't do your hair. You don't wear leather. So you're not wearing leather shoes, sandals. You're not wearing leather belts, and you cannot have sex. So those are like six restrictions. You're also shouldn't work. If you don't have to work, don't work. Or if you can call out, do what you can. But so the fast starts on sundown Wednesday night, and it goes through sundown Thursday. Now, if you tune in and stream through the Kabbalah Center, Kabbalah.com, then you will be able to be present for the shofar blowing, because one of the things about Rosh Hashana is like the shofar blowing starts the process, but it also has to complete the process. So if you didn't get the experience of feeling that sound and feeling the vibration of that happening, you can stream and experience that part too for yourself. So you would go to Kabbalah.com, go to the part where it says live streams, and then you would choose Yom Kippur East Coast broadcast, and then it'll take you to like a pay what you can page, and you can pay like $1, $25, whatever you want. They don't make money on these events. They usually lose money. Like they were saying they lost like $500,000 just for Rosh Hashana, but then they were making the point to say that like they had somebody that was like a generous donor that like covered a lot of the costs of their loss. So they were really appreciative of that. So, but a lot of the costs go to covering, scholarships and people that wanted to be there and signed up for a scholarship. So they were able to like help these people travel there to be in person. So you can pay what you can or what you want or what you feel is right. And that is a good opportunity to also give a tithe if you want. It goes to the center. But like I said, if you're like, I don't know the center, I don't know what they're about, then just pay $1 and then you can watch the stream. You won't regret it. Okay, so East Coast broadcast with Monica and Michael Berg, and then that'll be the live stream button If you go to like holidays and events, it gets really confusing. The filter gets really confusing. So just go to the live stream tab, and that will take you to a window that will give you the live schedule. I don't know what time it officially starts. I just know that it's later Wednesday afternoon when we get close to sunset, and it's on Eastern time zone. So remember that, and like maybe go earlier in the day, get your page open, let it be sitting in the background so that when time comes, you'll remember and it'll already be ready. All right, you guys, that is all for tonight. We will be back together tomorrow for another reading. We typically do our manifestation oracle message for Tuesday. I think we'll just keep on just going forward with our normally scheduled content instead of trying to retroactively catch up. And Secret Teachings of Jesus was disrupted this weekend with all the work stuff and everything. But this week we will continue. And we are in the Gospel of Mary. So the first two intro, part 1 and part 2, set us up to understand the context of the text. And then the next couple of episodes, we will be getting into the meat, and I will be giving you guys like the in-depth insights that are coming through. All right. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Ciao. Be praying for the world, y'all. Be praying for good things to happen, for protection, for people who are trying to do good by others. All right. Ciao. The period of time beginning at the start of Rosh Hashana and running through Yom Kippur is known as the 10 days of repentance. During these days, we can make transformations that will literally reshape our destiny. We receive a new and refreshed soul with the capacity to reveal new levels of our potential and purpose, new levels of goodness, understanding, and wisdom. However, this transformation is not guaranteed. We are given the opportunity to change, course correct, heal, and shift our consciousness, but it is up to us to adopt the discipline and determination to follow through to take the actions that will materialize these changes. It's up to us to choose differently, to choose to adopt a consciousness that mirrors the Creator's unconditional sharing, love, and compassion, to take actions rooted in love and kindness rather than fear, lack, or doubt. It is up to us to face hard truths, break our habits and patterns, and overcome our fears, limiting beliefs, and hardness of heart. This is a liminal space. The jury is still out. It is our consciousness and behaviors and actions we hold over the next few days that will determine the rest of our year. If we're a blessing to others, we will be blessed. If we curse others, we will be cursed.